The room was quiet, the kind of quiet that made every small sound feel too loud. The slow hum of the old ceiling fan. The faint click of her pen. The steady, uneven rhythm of my breathing. She looked up then, and the air between us changed. Her name was Elena. She was twice my age, maybe more, though I never asked. The first time I met her, she carried herself like someone who'd learned how to walk away from things she once wanted. But that night, sitting across from her, I wondered if she'd ever been looked at the way I was looking at her now. The lamp on her desk threw soft light across her cheek, catching the faint shimmer of the small scar near her jawline. She wasn't trying to look beautiful, she just was, in a way that didn't ask permission. "Do you ever stop thinking?" she asked suddenly. Her tone was light, teasing. But something behind it felt heavier, as if she wasn't talking about me at all. "I try," I said. My voice cracked a little, and she smiled. "Doesn't work." She leaned back in her chair, watching me. The movement was small, but it pulled the faint scent of jasmine from her hair toward me, a scent that made the room feel warmer. I watched her fingers trace the edge of a coffee mug, slow and careful, like she was buying time. "You're too young to be this serious," she murmured. "And you're too beautiful to say that like it's a bad thing," I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes flicked to mine, startled, not because of what I said, but because of how I said it. Too honest. Too unfiltered. A silence stretched between us. Not awkward, just heavy. Her hand stilled on the cup, and for a second, I thought she might laugh it off. But instead, she looked down, breathing out through her nose like someone who'd just remembered something they weren't supposed to feel again. She didn't look back up when she spoke. "You shouldn't say things like that." "I know." And still, I didn't take it back. The clock on the wall ticked once, loud enough to notice, soft enough to ignore. I wanted to fill the silence, to apologize, to explain that it wasn't some clumsy attempt at flirting. It was just the truth. But the way she turned her head slightly toward the window stopped me. There was something unguarded in her profile, a quiet sadness that wasn't for me, but that I wanted to carry anyway. She finally spoke again, almost whispering. "You remind me of someone." "Someone good?" "Someone I used to be." Her voice trembled on that last word, not enough for anyone else to hear, but enough for me. I don't know what made me do it, but I reached out. My hand brushed hers, just enough to make contact. Warm skin. The faintest tremor. She didn't move away, but she didn't move closer either. She just looked at our hands, then at me, like she was waiting to decide whether this was a mistake or a beginning. And that's when it happened, the sound of a key turning in the lock. The door creaked open, spilling hallway light into the quiet room. She drew her hand back quickly, her breath catching. "Don't," she whispered. I couldn't tell if she meant don't speak or don't feel. Either way, it was already too late. Because in that 1 second before she turned away, I saw it, the same thing I'd been trying to hide. The room was quiet again, except for the sound of two hearts finally agreeing. And the door hadn't even closed yet. It was supposed to be easier after that night. We'd laugh about it, pretend it never meant anything, keep things clean and professional. But nothing felt simple around her anymore, even silence had weight. Elena avoided my eyes the next day, though she didn't tell me to leave. She sat at her desk, glasses perched low on her nose, flipping through papers that didn't seem to matter. Her hair was tied up this time, not in its usual effortless knot, but tightly, like she was trying to contain something unruly. I caught myself watching the small pulse at her throat when she read. She noticed, of course. She always did. "You should stop staring," she said, her tone clipped but soft around the edges. "I'm trying," I said, and meant it. She smiled without looking up. "No, you're not." The words hit deeper than they should have. There was no accusation, no teasing, just quiet knowing. That's what unnerved me about her. She saw too much, and I didn't want to stop her. That evening, she finally told me about her husband. "He left 4 years ago," she said, almost absently. "We were married 21. One day, He just stopped coming home before midnight. Eventually, he stopped coming home at all. I didn't know what to say. The room smelled faintly of rain and old coffee, her kind of atmosphere steady but sad. Did you love him? I asked. She hesitated long enough for the silence to answer first. Once, she said. Not at the end. Something inside me shifted. I wanted to say I understood loneliness, that I'd felt it too, nights where the air felt too still, where my own reflection felt like company. But I was 26. My kind of loneliness was temporary, hers was earned. When I moved closer to hand her the folder she dropped, her fingers brushed mine again. It was nothing, accidental, fleeting, but my body betrayed me. I froze. She didn't pull away this time. Her skin was warm, the touch gentle but deliberate. Our eyes met, and I swear I could feel my heartbeat against my ribs like it was trying to get out. Then she said, barely above a whisper, "People would talk, you know. I don't care." "You should," she replied, finally meeting my eyes. There was no anger in her, only fear disguised as reason. "You're too young to throw yourself into something that already knows how to break." Her voice trembled again, and that tiny crack in her confidence made her even more impossible to resist. "I'm not afraid of breaking," I said quietly. She exhaled, shaky, defeated, almost laughing at herself. And then, for the first time, she didn't move when I stepped closer. Her hand rested on my arm, fingertips tracing the line of my sleeve like she was testing the temperature of a flame. The space between us disappeared, just for a second. Either of us spoke. And in that suspended breath, something wordless passed between us, not a confession, not a promise, just recognition. A silent understanding that whatever this was, it had already begun. It started with a knock that wasn't supposed to happen. Elena and I were standing too close, her arm brushing mine as she reached across the table, her perfume soft and dizzying. The room felt smaller than usual, the light more golden, as if it wanted to keep us hidden. "Hold still," she murmured. My tie had come loose, and she was fixing it, her fingers grazing my collarbone, too careful, too slow. Then, the knock. We both froze. Her hand lingered there for half a breath longer than it should have, and in that fraction of time, we both knew we should have stepped apart. We didn't. "Ms. Hale?" a voice called from outside the door. It was Peter, one of her colleagues, older, curious in all the wrong ways. Elena blinked once, sharply, then whispered, "Don't move." I heard the click of her heels as she crossed to the door. When she opened it, I turned away, pretending to study the books on her shelf. "Oh, Peter," she said, her tone perfectly calm. "Is something wrong?" "No, just, the budget forms. I thought you might still be here." Their conversation blurred, her voice steady, mine silent. I caught my reflection in the window, flushed, restless, ridiculous. When the door finally closed again, she turned to me and leaned against it, exhaling. "You need to stop coming here after hours," she said. "You could tell me to stop," I answered. She looked at me like she wanted to, like the words were already in her mouth, but they didn't come. Instead, she rubbed the bridge of her nose, sighing softly. "This isn't right," she whispered. "I'm old enough to, don't." She stopped. The word hung between us like smoke. I took a step closer. She didn't move back. My heart was hammering so hard it hurt to breathe. Her eyes met mine, not the careful, practiced gaze she used on everyone else, but the bare one, the one that didn't know how to hide. "Elena," I said quietly. "You think I don't see it, but I do. You stop breathing when I'm near you." Her lips parted, not in shock, but in the smallest admission. "You shouldn't notice things like that." Too late. The air thickened, heavy with everything unsaid. My hand found the edge of the desk beside her. Her breath brushed against my chin, close enough that I could feel the shape of her hesitation. She looked up at me, trembling between wanting and reason. "If you kiss me," she whispered, "everything changes." I leaned in, not close enough to touch, just close enough for her to feel how much I wanted to. Her eyes fluttered shut. And then her phone buzzed on the desk. The sound was sharp, brutal. She turned away, fumbling to silence it, her composure unraveling. I could see her hand shaking. When she finally looked back at me, her voice was barely a breath. I should go. But neither of us moved. We just stood there, too close to be innocent, too far to be safe, suspended between what we wanted and what we feared. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which one would win. Rain hammered against the windows, drowning out everything except the sound of our own breathing. The storm had caught us here, trapped, alone, with too much history between the silences. Elena stood near the window, her reflection fractured by raindrops. Her blouse clung faintly to her shoulders, and the glow from the desk lamp drew a halo around her that made her seem untouchable, and impossibly close all at once. "You should go before it gets worse," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands betrayed her, twisting the silver ring she always wore. "I think it's already worse," I said. She turned to me. There it was again, that flicker of something raw in her eyes. The kind of look that didn't belong in polite conversation. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked. "Because you never tell me to stop." Her breath caught. "Don't make this my fault." "It's not," I said, taking a step closer. "But you don't look away there." She did now, barely. Her shoulders tensed, but when I reached up to tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear, she didn't move. My fingers brushed her skin. Warm. Electric. Dangerous. "Elena." My voice trembled. "Tell me to stop." She didn't. Instead, she whispered, "You think this is desire, but it's not. It's loneliness pretending to be brave. Then let me be brave with you." Her lips parted, a sound half between a laugh and a sigh escaping. She turned her head slightly, and suddenly her face was inches from mine. I could see every detail, the faint smudge of mascara near her lashes, the way her throat moved when she swallowed. "This isn't fair to you," she said. "You don't know what it's like to be seen only when it's convenient." "I see you now," I said. "Every time you try to disappear." That broke something. She pressed her palm against my chest, not to push me away, but to feel it, the rhythm she'd been pretending not to hear. Her forehead rested against mine, and I felt her whisper more than heard it. "You make me remember who I was before I learned to hide." I didn't trust myself to speak. My hands found her waist, tentative, reverent. She let me. Her breath warmed the space between us, uneven and fragile. "I can't do this," she said. But her fingers curled around my wrist, holding me there. "You already are," I whispered. The rain outside softened, the world narrowing to the heartbeat between us. She looked up, eyes searching mine like she was trying to memorize them, or warn me. Her lips hovered near mine, so close I could taste the warmth of her breath. Then she whispered, almost trembling, "If you kiss me, I won't stop you." For one suspended heartbeat, everything fell away, the rules, the reasons, the fear. And then, a sharp knock at the door. We both froze. Her eyes widened, and she stepped back, her hands slipping from mine, leaving the ghost of warmth behind. The knock came again. Louder. Neither of us spoke. But we both knew, whatever happened next, the line between us had already blurred beyond return. The knock had faded, but its echo lingered long after the door stayed shut. Elena stood perfectly still, her hand resting on the back of the chair like she needed something solid to hold onto. I could see the color drain from her face, not fear exactly, but the recognition of something she'd been dreading. "It's fine," I whispered. "Whoever it was." She cut me off. "It was him." It took a moment to register. "Who?" "My ex-husband," she said quietly, the words landing like a confession. "He still has a key. He shouldn't, but he does." My chest tightened. "You told me he left years ago." "He did," she said. "But he comes back sometimes. Not for me. For the house, the things, the idea of still being needed." Her voice trembled, anger and shame wrapped in control. He saw my car outside. He thinks I'm still waiting for him. I stepped closer, slow enough not to startle her. Are you? She met my eyes, and for once, there was no guard, no distance. Just raw, honest exhaustion. I don't know, she admitted. I was. Until you. The silence that followed wasn't gentle. It crackled between us like static. I wanted to say something, anything, but she turned away, pressing her hand to her mouth as if the words had burned coming out. Elena, don't. She faced me again, her eyes shining in the dim light. You shouldn't have to see me like this. I've spent years pretending I'm fine, and now you show up, young, kind, stupid enough to believe I'm someone worth breaking rules for. She brushed past me, her shoulder grazing my arm. The contact was brief, but it felt like an apology she didn't know how to give. Don't call yourself that, I said softly. She laughed under her breath, brittle and beautiful. You don't understand. If he finds out about you, about this, he'll ruin you, not me. I'm already a ghost in his story. Her words stung more than they should have. I took her hand before I could think better of it. I'm not afraid of him. But I am, she said. I'm afraid of what I become when I'm near you. You make me forget who I promised myself I'd never be again. I felt her pulse beneath my fingers, quick and desperate. Her gaze dropped to where our hands met. She didn't pull away, not yet. Then, almost to herself, she whispered, He'll be back. He always comes back. What do you want me to do? She looked up slowly. Leave. But her voice broke halfway through the word, and the tear that followed betrayed everything she was trying to protect. I brushed it away before I could stop myself. Her breath hitched, her lips parting in a soft, helpless sound. I can't, I said. For a moment neither of us breathed. And then, with a tremor that was part fear, part surrender, she whispered, Then stay, but don't make me ask you to. Outside, thunder rolled across the night sky. Inside, every line between right and wrong had disappeared. And both of us knew, the next time that door opened, everything would change. The rain had stopped by morning, but the silence it left behind was heavier than the storm. Elena stood at the kitchen counter, a mug of untouched coffee in her hands. Her hair was still damp, her eyes red from a night that neither of us had really slept through. I watched her from the doorway, unsure whether to speak or breathe. You stayed, she said softly, without turning around. I couldn't leave you like that. Her shoulders rose and fell with a slow breath. You shouldn't have stayed. I know. That was the truth, but knowing didn't make it easier. She turned then, leaning against the counter, the morning light catching the faint lines beneath her eyes. There was no trace of the confident woman who'd once told me what not to say. Just Elena, tired, bare, and real. Do you want to know something stupid? She asked, her voice low. I dreamt about you before any of this started. Just your voice. I didn't even know why. I stepped closer, the floor creaking beneath me. That's not stupid. Her eyes met mine, full of apology and hunger all at once. It feels like it is. The space between us vanished, not in a rush but in a slow, trembling inevitability. I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Her skin was cool from the morning air, but she leaned into my touch as though warmth were something she'd forgotten. Elena, I whispered. Tell me what you want me to do. She swallowed hard. You already know. I need to hear it. Her eyes searched mine, for strength, for permission, maybe both. I want you to stop making me feel alive, she said. Because if you don't, I'll forget how to be careful. But she didn't move when I stepped closer. My hand slid to the back of her neck, my thumb tracing the soft line of her jaw. Her breath hitched, and she closed her eyes. Then maybe it's time to stop being careful, I said. For a moment, the world held its breath. No thunder, no wind, just us. Her hands found my chest, trembling, pushing me back just an inch, then pulling me closer again, as though she couldn't decide which was safer. You don't know what this will cost, she whispered against my collar. I don't care, I said. Do you? She opened her eyes. The hesitation was still there, but so was something deeper, the quiet acceptance of someone done running from herself. Her hand lifted, fingers tracing the line of my face, stopping just beneath my mouth. I've spent years pretending I was fine, she said. You make me remember I'm not. And then, finally, the distance between us broke. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't perfect. It was slow, trembling, inevitable, the kind of moment that doesn't ask permission because it already knows the answer. When she finally pulled away, she rested her forehead against mine, breath uneven, eyes wet but steady. Now you understand, she said quietly. It was never about wanting. It was about being seen. And for the first time, I did. The world felt different after. Not louder or brighter, just clearer, as if every sound, every breath, carried its own meaning. Elena sat by the window, the morning light painting soft gold across her skin. She looked peaceful, but I knew her well enough to recognize that kind of stillness, the kind that comes after a storm, when everything fragile inside you finally stops fighting. Neither of us spoke for a while. The coffee between us had gone cold again, but neither of us moved to replace it. You're quiet, she said finally. So are you. Her lips curved in a small, tired smile. That's rare for me. It's nice, I said. She looked at me for a long moment, not studying, not guarding, just seeing. Then, with a slow breath, she said, You should know, I spent the whole night trying to convince myself to tell you to leave. And I couldn't do it. Her voice cracked just slightly, and I reached across the table, resting my hand over hers. She didn't flinch this time. Her fingers turned upward, intertwining with mine. I'm not asking for promises, she said. I just don't want to pretend anymore. Not about how I feel. Not about what this is. That's all I ever wanted, I said. Something real. Even if it scares you. Her eyes softened. It does scare me. You do. I know, I whispered. But you still let me in. She laughed quietly under her breath, shaking her head. You're too young to sound that certain. Maybe, I said. Or maybe you just make me sure. A small silence followed, the kind that didn't need fixing. The storm outside had left the air clean, the sound of dripping water faint through the open window. Elena stood, moving toward me with a hesitant grace. She stopped beside my chair, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her presence before she even touched me. Her hand came to rest against my cheek, light, deliberate, trembling only once before finding its calm. You make me feel seen, she said softly. I didn't think I'd ever want that again. I turned my face just enough to press a kiss to her palm. Then don't stop wanting it. Her other hand slid into my hair, drawing me closer until her forehead rested against mine. Neither of us spoke. We just breathed together, two people who had spent too long learning how to hide, finally choosing not to. When she finally pulled back, her smile was quiet but certain. Whatever happens next, she said, I want it to be ours. I nodded, brushing my thumb across her knuckles. Then it will be. Outside, the sky had started to clear, streaks of sunlight pushing through the gray. She sat beside me, our hands still joined on the table, fingers tangled like roots that had finally found their ground. The room was quiet again, but this time, it wasn't empty. It was full. Headphone, did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?